What is the pettiest thing you have done after a breakup? Story 1. Had a GF with a massive ego. Her ex-husband left her for a younger girl despite how beautiful she was, and it ate her up inside. Her ex-husband was about to get remarried to a diff girl who looked like the 28-year-old version of my 38-yo GF. I knew that weekend was going to be rough for her, so I prepared to just be there for her and let her cry on my shoulder. But she insisted she wanted to be alone. So I let her have her space. 3 days later, I find out she met and slept with a 22-year-old guy and that she's dumping me. And I was particularly pissed, BC. She's clearly taking out her angst over her ex, but the only person that's getting hurt is me. So I made a fake Facebook and catfished the kid she dumped me over for a few days. Then I contacted her through the catfish act and shared the conversation with her as a concerned other girl. And she dumped him and then figured out I did it, which only made me smile. Next story. After him and I broke up, my friend accidentally sent a text to my ex saying, "You kissed him?" Then sent another text to my ex saying, "Oh, sorry, that was for Killer Off the Rose," implying that I kissed another man. He texted me later that saying, "So you're with someone else?" Then another time I bought a teddy bear and chocolates for myself. Then posted it on Valentine's Day on Snapchat saying, "Thanks, babe," acting like someone bought it for me. And then my ex called me and asked about the Valentine's Day gifts. All of this was planned by me. Looking back, what I did was so unnecessary to be fair. I was just heartbroken over him. Next story. Okay, so my ex tried to cheat on me with a mutual friend of ours. The ex I can at least respect to some extent for being honest about it, so I just treated him like he died, blocked on everything, refused to acknowledge his existence. He tried to come into my work when I used to bartend to talk to me, and I just straight up ignored him until the bouncer came and kicked him out. The friend, on the other hand, refused to admit she did anything, despite me having proof that she initiated the texting and brought up hooking up in the first place. So I waited a while to take my revenge out on her. A year later, I see via Instagram that she's dating a new guy. Gave it a few more months to make sure things were more than just a fling, and then I started making it a point to stop in at bars by myself on the weekend for a drink. Guys would come up and hit on me, and I'd give out my ex-friend's name, along with her phone number with the intention that her phone would be blowing up with, "Hey, ____, this is Matt. We met at the bar a couple nights ago. How are you?" Not sure if this had anything to do with it or not, but she was single a month after I started handing out her number. Edit. I would also like to put it out there that I know what I did was wrong, and I should be able to forgive and let things go and not try to ruin other people's lives by holding huge grudges until I feel they get what they deserve. I see a psychologist every Monday morning, and I have gotten much better at letting go of my anger and being more secure with myself and my relationships. Next story. I took hostage his $20 bong that he was somehow spiritually and emotionally attached to, and I took it because he was mentally addicted to weed, broke my iPod, and cheated on me, and I knew he loved that dumbass thing more than anything. He was so mad and kept calling my parents' house after I moved back home after the breakup. I was embarrassingly 19. I really cringe at this particular period of my life, and my stepdad got so annoyed at my level of petty teen bitchiness that he looked at me after one particularly stupid phone call, took the bong, went outside with a hammer and smashed it. We never talked about it again. My stepdad died last year, and I always smile at this memory. He was a great sport. Next story. My ex needed a fridge after we broke up. My dad and I found a shitty one for $25, cleaned it pretty well, then charged him $150. I also pre-ground my ex's weed with my grinder as a service, and gave him mostly stems mixed with chamomile, as I kept 100% of his keef in my keef catcher. After 7 years of his emotional abuse while supporting his lazy ass with my income, it felt good to recoup some tiny losses and didn't harm him a bit. Next story. Long story short, I found out the guy I dated for a bit had indeed slipped me a date rape pill. Moving on to the good stuff. My current boyfriend, his friend, and I were at a big party that this prior guy and mutual friends were throwing. Also, this was where I found out about the pill. Told my boyfriend and friend about what I had found out, and like any respectful, real men, they wanted to kill these guys. Obviously, I didn't want to make a big show out of any aspect of this. So I thought, no, let's be sneaky and ruin his party. It was around 11 p.m. You know, prime party time. There were 3 kegs left to drink and some beer. We sneakily put all the remaining cases of beer in my car and stole the one and only keg tap. Fuck that guy, but damn, that was a satisfying night. Next story. When I was 19, I got myself out of a bad relationship with a very controlling, manipulative older guy. He had always talked about how he was suicidal, and it was my fault. And when I left, he texted me that he was killing himself, clearly staged in an attempt to get me to take him back, something he had a history of doing. Well, I called his bluff and had him 5,150 DTD. He was fucking pissed. It was mostly because of the ambulance and hospital charge he now was responsible for. Apparently, the dumbass put my address on his hospital forms that night, even though I paid 100% of the rent and was the only one on the lease, and he obviously was not coming back. I didn't know this for several weeks because I had lost my mailbox key, and being a teenager with no need for snail mail didn't do anything about it until it turned up. When it finally did, I found 3 or 4 letters addressed to him and decided to do the amoral, yet infinitely more satisfying thing of opening them. Well, they were ambulance bills, each one increasing with late charges. After my friend and I died laughing, I decided to wait for a few more letters before filling him in. Eventually, my friend brought an unopened one into his work, handed it to him, and heard him screaming, "Fuck!" as she walked out the door. There was no follow-up from him. Thankfully, in retrospect, that could have been a pretty dangerous thing to do. Next story. Wrote notes to each other during school and passed them during hall time. I took each and every note that I had saved, ripped them into shreds, and then stuffed the paper confetti into his meticulously folded hoodie. Gave him the hoodie back in between classes. My witness who had class with him the next hour said he was pissed when he opened the hoodie to throw it on and confetti lit up the room. Score. Next story. My ex and I were together 6 years and we had 2 cats. After our very physical breakup, I took one cat and moved back home to Indiana from Arizona, and he kept our other cat. I found out not long after that he had already moved the girl that he cheated on me with into the house, and they were neglecting poor Morrison, leaving him outside on the balcony, dirty litter box not feeding him regularly, etc. Anyways, getting to the petty part, our mutual friend, his best friend, was in AZ visiting him, while my older sister happened to be in AZ at the same time visiting our mother. Since I knew he had a crush on my sister over the next couple of days, I orchestrated a get-together between the two, making sure my ex and his new GF would be working when she went over to his house to hang out. I had her pick up the cheapest, shittiest 40 ounces beer, 211 Steel Reserve, on her way there to leave for him as a gift from me. She spotted Morrison in the first 5 minutes, put the 40 Oz down on the table, picked up Momo and ran out. I do feel bad for involving our mutual friend and using him that way, but it was worth it to get my cat out of that shitty situation. So much satisfaction. Next story. Many years ago, my fiancé changed his mind and broke off our engagement the day before my final exams in university. Then he asked if I could return the ring. I was so hurt and shocked by the breakup, I refused to return the ring. It wasn't an heirloom or anything like that. It was the last bit on control I had over the situation, and I wasn't willing to make it easy for him. Petty, I know. Not my proudest moment. Years later, when I met the love of my life, I opted not to have an engagement ring. I didn't want a big ring, big wedding. I just wanted an awesome marriage. We've been married for almost 20 years, and they've been the happiest years of my life. Next story. I had a boyfriend in college. It was a dry campus, but if all the roommates were 21 plus, they could have alcohol. If there was someone underage in the room with alcohol present, the owner of the alcohol would get written up, have to do an alcohol class online, and possibly lose points for their next year housing lottery. When he broke up with me, it was for a girl 3 years younger than us. When we broke up, he was the only 21-year-old in his dorm room. When we broke up, my best friend was an RA in his building. Guess who repeatedly for alcohol write-ups, and occasionally cock-blocked by RA visits. Next story. Damn, I'm so late to this, but I just have to participate. I broke up with a guy for cheating on me, but before that, we were working on his porn addiction. He let me set up software on his computer that would block certain sites. Obviously, it wouldn't get everything, but we had hoped it would be a step in the right direction. This guy wasn't necessarily savvy with technology, so he didn't realize that I still had control over his access to stuff when we broke up. And you're absolutely right, I kept all that stuff blocked. It took him a year to figure out just resetting his computer would fix it. During that time, I would periodically check to see if he was still getting blocked. He would try over 30 sites a day with no success. Next story. Long story short, after finding out about cheating for the millionth time, I knew I was an idiot after the third time, but I stayed, I'm stupid, I know anyway. Night before his birthday, he's passed. I find shit in his phone he gave me the password to. Okay. Uber home in the middle of the night. When he texts me the next morning, I tell him I low-key knew he was cheating. I didn't until that night. So I got tested a few weeks prior. Again, I didn't. But I told him he gave me STDs and to have fun finding out which girl gave it to him. Evil and petty? Check. Betty put a hold on his horses for at least a week. I really did get tested for real, though, after finding out. Ladies and gents, take care of yourself. Next story. My ex was a real bad guy. I'll spare the details. But when he left me, he took off for 5 days, and every day said he would be back the next. When he finally said he would come home, I drove 2 hours in the middle of the night to pick him up, and he broke up with me the next morning, and then left. He was really OCD about how things were packed, and I decided it would be easier to do it myself. I made sure to pack his stuff in the most annoying way possible. I packed his PlayStation in a different box, then the cables and the controllers in another, mixed the games with dishes and toiletries, etc. Nothing was damaged, it was all there. But it would have taken him forever to find anything. Next story. At school, my girlfriend used my computer login because she forgot hers. After she cheated on me, I opened her English essay and added in random normal words, stuff like carrot, wardrobe, etc. Just normal words, so they wouldn't be noticed unless it was thoroughly checked, which I knew she wouldn't, but the teacher would. She got it back marked with a confused comment from the teacher about proofreading. She hunted me down and threw it at me while screaming. I laughed. It wasn't worth anything towards her qualifications, so had no long-term ramifications, but she hated doing badly at school. Next story. Many years ago, I was involved with a rather emotionally abusive man who lied non-stop. Eventually, I found proof of him cheating on me. I was making websites at the time, and months beforehand he had gotten me to make a website for his sister's business, which he took all credit for. I wasn't paid to make it either. When I found out he was cheating, I photoshopped a picture of him into him wearing a pink tutu in full ballerina pose. Then I changed the entire website to show the picture of him and added a whole paragraph of text calling him out on his BS so all his family could see. Next story. In high school, I had 2 friends, one boy and one girl. Their SOs left them for each other, called them Boy X and Girl X. While Girl X ended up being a homie hopper, so we just ignored her, Boy X was originally a close friend with a short temper. I came up with the idea for my 2 friends to pretend like they were dating each other since we knew it would anger Boy X. My friends were all for it, and we changed their relationship status and profile pics and had status pic updates for 2 months until they went their separate ways. Boy X was furious and jealous, and in the end, Girl X never put out, so he came crawling back to my friend attempting to get forgiveness. Next story. Not me, but my mom. Found out her partner of 5 years or so had made a dating profile while they were still together and he was living with us. On top of this, he was constantly taking advantage of her and generally being absolutely insane and abusive. Because she put hours into helping him rebuild his business, asking for nothing in return, she had access to his website, his domains, etc. She attached his dating profile to his professional business domain, so when you typed it in, his Match.com account would pop right up. Next story. I ended an extremely abusive relationship when our daughter was 1 year old. He was incredibly hard to get along with custody-wise and moved his new girlfriend with several kids in with him less than a month after I left. This was back in the day of Bill Me Later magazine subscriptions. You can bet that I subscribed him to several gay porn mags with his name, but his neighbor's address. His neighbor owned a local bar, restaurant, and only casually knew him as a neighbor. I wish I knew exactly how that went down. Next story. This was back in middle school where people shared Facebook login info to post cute stuff. I had her info and we broke up and she did it in some stupid way. Middle school me didn't approve of, so I went on her Facebook and added all of her friends to a group message. And when I say all, I mean all 770-something friends, including myself. To do this, I had to go into the message, go to add a person, hit A, add the first person that showed up whose first name started with A, and repeat. Then once all the first names with A would finish, Facebook would show last names that started with it. Finish up the A's and move on to the B's. To get all the way through the Z's, it took over 30 minutes. Then I just sent a message saying, hey, to these 770-ish people, and chaos ensued. Within 1 minute, the message had over 20 replies. Within 10 minutes, it had over 150 replies. The majority of these replies were either people asking how to leave the message or people telling others to stop responding to the message. People's phones were dying because they were getting so many notifications so quickly. I laughed hard AF for a good while. Got I friended by that ex was worth it. Next story. 5 years together and the last year was nothing but verbal abuse, gaslighting, emotional abuse, zero affection or intimacy, hidden meth habit, no job. Finally reached my breaking point when I found out he was messaging an ex while I was at work. Fast forward a month later, I show up to a bar he frequents looking hot AF. He tried to get me to talk to him the entire time. I avoided and ignored him, then left with a hot guy to make it seem like I had a one-night stand. I only had him drop me off at my house, but it had the desired effect. Ex lost his shit about it and boo-hooed to our mutual friends. Next story. Found out he'd been having an affair for a year of our 5-year relationship. I made an announcement on Instagram with pics of them for his siblings to see. While I slept that night, for like an hour, heartbreak sucks, my big sister contacted every member of his affair partner's family to discuss her lack of morals. She also told my ex's mom. I wasn't going to. I love that lady, and she raised him better than that, and detailed the mental and financial abuse he put me under during his affair. Then I cut contact. He texted a few months later to say he missed hanging out with me. Sucks for him, though. She's been trying to cheat on him with other taken men since before I even found out he cheated. I feel sorry for him. Next story. A guy I dated in high school cheated on me. I walked into the cafeteria to see him kissing another girl's neck. She first got smug at the look on my face and said that obviously my crush preferred her. I said that was fine. She could have my boyfriend as I wasn't, saying with a cheater. Turned around and left. Later, she and a couple friends tracked me down to apologize and try to talk me out of seeking revenge. She was scared and shaking a bit. The thing is, I don't really do revenge, especially not on someone who didn't know me and didn't know either of us was being cheated on. Instead, we talked and she converted me. Together, we grabbed his backpack and put it in the girls' bathroom, just far enough in that he could see it with the door propped open, but he couldn't reach it without getting yelled at. The teachers refused to help until classes were over. They liked me. When he ran in, they made him put it back and wait. Next story. Left my ex of 3 years after he became abusive. We had a shared home, and the walk-in closet, one section of it, the bar where you hang your clothes on, was loose and would constantly rotate as you'd move your hangers on and off. So I got a Sharpie and rotated it to write on it, saying things like, "You're a piece of shit! You're a failure! Go kill yourself!" etc. Then rotated it back to an unwritten part of it. Wonder how long it took to make a rotation to one of the writings. Also, he was growing a few weed plants while back in the garage. The morning after the cops had picked him up for jail, I played the clueless ex and said I was packing my items from the garage out and found some weird products that say scent control and something else I can't remember that was popular for weed. The cop that arrested him and found weed on him walked the garage with me as I cluelessly moved around boxes and uncovered growing supplies, which apparently puts him on an immediate watch list. And that police department was known to check trash cans as soon as they hit the curb for seeds if you're on a list. Next story. So I had a boyfriend who cheated on me, so I broke up with him and started dating his best friend, who is now my husband. Anyways, my husband, then boyfriend, texted me and said that he was hanging out with my ex-boyfriend, so I got in my car, drove to where they were hanging out, walked up to my now husband, and kissed him. Ex-boyfriend got out of the truck they were sitting in and slammed the door. When he started walking away, I shouted his name, and he looked back and I flipped him the bird and said, "Hey, Brandon, fuck you." And they never talked again. This ex was a total ladies' man, and no girl ever told him no. He was extremely hurt when I kept turning him down after I broke up with him. Next story. My ex has BPD, and after getting dumped for asking a question and needing a new belt, see our BPDL love dones to see what I mean. Anyway, she stole several $1,000s from me on her way out. Told all my friends and students I stole from her. Again, see the son I linked? And then tried to give my dogs away to strangers on Craigslist. The vampire had left all her passwords on my laptop, and nothing logged out. So every couple months I'd go on Amazon and delete her massive wish list for gifts guys could buy for her online. It would take her weeks to make that list, and bam, gone. I also ranted about her on Reddit in a Kotsa band thread, and didn't use her real name, but said everything I ever wanted to say to her. for what she did, including my hope that she shit herself inside out. After hearing she got IBs, then she found it. Damn, Reddit. Way too small. Next story. My ex has BPD, and after getting dumped for asking a question and needing a new belt, see our BPD love dones to see what I mean. Anyway, she stole several $1,000s from me on her way out. Told all my friends and students I stole from her. Again, see the son I linked? And then tried to give my dogs away to strangers on Craigslist. The vampire had left all her passwords on my laptop, and nothing logged out. So every couple months I'd go on Amazon and delete her massive wish list for gifts guys could buy for her online. It would take her weeks to make that list, and bam, gone. I also ranted about her on Reddit in a Kotsa thread, and didn't use her real name, but said everything I ever wanted to say to her, for what she did, including my hope that she shit herself inside out. After hearing she got IBs, then she found it. Damn, Reddit. Way too small. Next story. I hope I'm not too late to the game. I had an ex who cheated on me. A lot. I was young, and it took a long time to leave the relationship, but I finally did around my junior year of college. For the next 2-3 years, whenever a guy would hit on me that I was not interested in, I would give him my ex's number. 2 birds, 1 stone. Apparently, only one guy ever texted him. Good thing I didn't bother giving out my real number. Losers. And hilarity ensued. Luckily, my ex had a good sense of humor about it and sent me screenshots of the psycho I clearly dodged. Next story. I kept the $100 he gave me as a gift and went to go get a 3rd ear piercing on Valentine's Day. We had broken up right beforehand, and he refused to me getting the 3rd piercing and made it a big deal so I wouldn't do it. Another one, a different ex didn't like how I looked at all. I like to dress up. I have curly brown hair. I love heels. Well, he didn't like any of that. Like at all. So, after he and I broke up, I made sure to come back to school, I was in high school, looking as good as possible. Bangs, straightened hair, dyed hair, cuter clothes. To the point where, no one recognized me, friends had to do a double take. It's just so satisfying knowing I did these things for myself and to make me happy, not someone else. Oh, and the fact he had to know that over the course of a coup months I completely changed my look, but not for him, was great. Next story. Not me, but a kid in our shop. He broke up with his GF. They had bought a new truck together, he said, used her credit, and both names were on the title. He drove it to work and put a club on it so she couldn't drive it away. That lasted 2 days, and he goes out to go home, and the truck was gone, Johnson. He found out that her new BF was a mechanic, had pulled the steering wheel, and removed the club. She kept it locked in the garage after that. And Taylor-2 was when I was 19 and a starving musician in Denver. One night me and another bandmate were totally wasted and decided to marry the girls we were with. Bandmate's girl was ecstatic. My girl was one I'd been with quite a while. So he strings her along, but doesn't want to marry her. Can't remember if he gave her a ring. Anyhow, come Christmas and him and her are gonna fly back east to meet her family. They get to St. Louis and have plane change. He tells here he has to use the men's room. Last she saw of him, he already had a ticket to Chicago. Just left her there. Next story. I didn't do this, but it happen to me. My friend broke up with her boyfriend and came to stay with me for a while. Her ex called the cops on me 4 different times saying I kidnapped her. The 4th time they said they wouldn't be coming back to my house and was going to have a talk with him. I was also dating his brother, and we broke up because I got a call from the sheriff's department saying he didn't want to talk to me anymore. I didn't even know you could break up via police. They said, he'll probably come back to you, but for right now he wants to break up and doesn't want to talk to you. I wish I was joking. Next story. I was with a guy for 2.5 years who refused to get a driver's license. I drove him everywhere to the point where the car died about a month after we broke up. I did everything for him. He refused to grow up. He was too dependent on me to end it, so he cheated on me and gaslighted me when I asked about the girl he was constantly texting. Finally, he ended it, still denying the cheating, making me feel insane and like a jealous girlfriend. When I got him to finally admit to it, I took his deepest insecurity and confirmed it to him. I told him he was right all along, and I should have believed him when he said he was a shitty person and he hurts everyone that loves him. Petty? Yes. But it felt good and I don't regret it. Next story. Someone did something petty and extremely misguided on my behalf. I had a thing going with a guy in school for about 3 months. He acted really into me. Romantic, attentive, all that. Story of old, I eventually slept with him. He put me as a notch on his bedpost, boasted to his friends, and moved on to his next victim. Or so he planned. After me, he apparently met a girl he genuinely liked who had managed to really get his attention. After he did what he did to me, I went off school sick long-term because of developing a health condition. During this time I was off sick, and this guy had just gotten with his new girlfriend. A friend of mine thought she would get revenge for me by telling his new girlfriend that this guy might have HIV to put her off him. My lovely friend told the girlfriend she knew this for sure, because it's why I had gone off sick. That I had HIV and I had slept with him, so yeah. When my friend proudly told me of the trouble she had caused for the guy because of how he treated me, I was just... What? Jaw dropped. I pointed out to my friend, you know? You do realize you basically just spread a malicious rumor about me? She was all, oh, fuck shit, I didn't think about that. I just thought it made it more believable. I'm so sorry. I meant her to think he had given it to you. Blah, blah. It was the most embarrassing thing in the world, marching up to my ex-guy and his new girlfriend and just blurting out, look, I don't have HIV. I never did. I don't know why so-so said that. It's complete bullshit. Thankfully, they were really nice about it. This new girlfriend must have been a good influence on him. They basically said, yeah, they figured it was bullshit, but were relieved to hear it confirmed, and that was that. The rumor didn't spread at all, and nothing about my life was affected by it. As far as I know, anyway. Next story. I had built his website for him. He was a freelance writer, so his portfolio site was how he got jobs. After the breakup, I kept his homepage the same, but redirected his writing sample links to blog posts on the Nambla website, instead of links to his actual writing work, so it looked like he was writing exclusively about child abuse and pornography. To support this, I also spent a small amount of money buying SEM, so any search for his name would yield a few results confirming that he was into the whole Nambla thing before listing his website. It was a long time before he noticed, and according to GA, lots of potential clients saw it.